Hey guys, it's Gianna, Midwifay here. Today I wanted to film this video about what a laborist is. An OB hospitalist, in-house physician. There's a lot of different terms for it. So I wanted to just kind of dive into what the history of a laborist is, what my role as a midwife laborist is, and just really get into it. All right, let's go. So before talking about specifically what an OB hospitalist is, I'll talk about what a hospitalist is in general. A hospitalist is a term for a patient provider, usually a physician, who stays in-house. That means works in the hospital only. So this is different from your primary doctor. Say you have a doctor that you see on Monday afternoon for a sore throat. You go to the doctor's office at 2 p.m., they evaluate you, send you on your way, let you know it's something minor. What if 2 days later you have more severe symptoms, fever, you start coughing up things, then you go to the hospital, to the ER, and you're greeted by the hospital staff there. They take care of you, assess you, admit you if need be, and care for you while you're in the hospital. Those are hospital-based hospitalist physicians. So it's generally not your primary care physician that's caring for you when you're in the hospital. It's the hospitalist physician that cares for you. OB is a little different in that, obviously, if you have a sore throat on Monday, your primary practice doctor does not anticipate necessarily that on Wednesday it's going to become bronchitis or pneumonia that requires hospitalization, right? OB is a little different in that when you get pregnant and stay pregnant and you have your 10-week visit, your 16-week visit, 20-week visit, etc., we anticipate a hospitalization around your due date. We anticipate you're going to be hospitalized for the birth of your child. So, unlike your primary care physician that's not expected to come visit you in the hospital for your sore throat that's turned into bronchitis, obviously your OB is expected to come in when you're in labor. However, there is a plethora of reasons and scenarios where your doctor isn't there the moment you're admitted in the hospital. Since your OB that you've seen for all of your visits and ultrasounds is not necessarily there when you're admitted to the hospital, there are other providers that are there. These are called OB hospitalists. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the terms OB hospitalist and laborist interchangeably. So the role of a laborist is to be there with anyone that's admitted on the labor and delivery unit until that person's attending OB is there. Again, there's a variety of situations when your OB doesn't need to be there just because you're admitted. For instance, if you're admitted for a labor induction, you might start your induction very, very early and your doctor doesn't need to get there until it's time for the baby to be born or if any other urgent things arise. Another scenario might be something like an antepartum admission. If you're admitted while still pregnant for some kind of complication of pregnancy, your OB doesn't need to be in-house 24/7 to monitor you. That's why there are nurses, the laborists in-house to maintain safety while you're there. Really, a laborist role is twofold. Firstly, it's to maintain safety on the unit in order to ensure that people that are admitted on labor and delivery have access to a provider when and if they need to in urgent and emergent scenarios, as well as for satisfaction. Satisfaction for patients who might want questions answered by a provider, but also for the nurses and the techs and anesthesia, anyone else that works in the hospital. It's satisfying to have a provider there that's able to provide care and answer questions now versus waiting the 10, 15, 20 minutes it might take for that person's private OB or midwife to get to the hospital. The extent of a laborist's role in patient care really differs depending on the type of facility. So if you work in a more busy, high acuity facility, often laborists play more of a hands-on role in the management of care of those patients than if a laborist works in a smaller community hospital with lower volume of patients, lower risk patients. Then patients that are admitted to that labor and delivery may never interface with the laborist at all and not even know that there is someone in-house. My role as a midwife laborist is obviously a little different in that I am not a surgeon, so I cannot do C-sections or perform urgent obstetrical procedures. I also can't do operative vaginal deliveries, so that includes vacuum-assisted deliveries, forceps-assisted deliveries, or manage other obstetrical emergencies such as severe preeclampsia or eclampsia, very preterm birth. Those are scenarios in which my physician laborist colleagues will step in and manage the care until the attending physicians are there. As a midwife laborist, I'm very involved in the unit. I work a lot in triage. I am often the first person that a woman meets with the nurse when they come in to triage. I often triage women to see if they are in labor, if their water is broken, if they come in for back pain, whatever complaint they come in for. The nurse and myself do an assessment, evaluate, see what's going on, and then I call her attending physician to let them know what's going on with their patient. The facility I work at works closely with residents. So we have a resident program and there are always residents on the unit, anywhere from 4 to 6, 7, 8, lots of residents around all times. So the residents and I really work closely in the laborist role, along with the supervising attending laborist physicians. We work to kind of manage the labor and care of women until their attending physicians come in for the birth. A unique aspect of my job as a midwife laborist where I currently work is that we have a traditional labor delivery unit as well as a natural birth center on our floor. And so I really enjoy being able to provide that care for women who come in labor and want the experience of being in the natural birth center. I often call their attending physicians, let them know that their patient's here in labor and they would like the natural birth center. And then I get to support the nurses and the women there, managing the labor there, assessing them while they're in the natural birth center, and then call their attending physicians in for the birth. I find this is, again, a very unique opportunity because not a lot of hospitals have a labor and delivery as well as a natural birth center. So I enjoy this role of being able to support the nurses and support women that ask for this. I find that midwife presence on the unit is really supportive for the attending physicians as well because, let's be honest, a lot of OBs aren't trained in natural birth. They don't necessarily want to go to the natural birth center. It's just not their world. They're not familiar with patients not continuously being monitored, how to assess stages of labor that way. They're also not as well versed in delivering in other positions, maybe hands, knees, maybe laboring in the water. So I really enjoy being able to provide that type of care for women who want that, as well as for their physicians who want me to step in to help with that because they don't necessarily want to be as involved in that type of a birth experience. Some frustrations arise sometimes in the laborist role because I am not the attending provider for that patient. So it is not, at the end of the day, my job to make the decision for this patient. So when I call a provider with, say a patient comes in early labor, water's not broken, everything's fine, I might recommend that she go home, labor at home a little bit longer and come back in. But ultimately it's not my decision, it's a decision of the attending physician on what they recommend for that patient. I would say that most of the physicians we work with, we have a great relationship with. They respect what, us as the advanced practice providers as well as the residents. When we meet with the patients and do the assessment and the evaluation, most of the time the attending physicians go with the recommendations that we make based on our exam, but sometimes they don't, and that can be frustrating working in this laborist role. I think it's important to share this information about an OB hospitalist or a laborist because I think a lot of women don't know that this model exists and that, if you are going to be giving birth in kind of a busier hospital setting, more than likely there's going to be some in-house staff that's not your physician, that you've never met before, that will be caring for you until your OB is in the hospital. So I just wanted to get this video out there to explain that. So now that I've discussed all that about a laborist, I would love to know what experiences you have with laborists. Do you work as a laborist or closely with laborists? If you've had a baby before, did you have a laborist involved with your care? Or if you're pregnant, do you know if your hospital uses laborists? please comment, share, let us know. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.